Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God, look at it.
God, it's like a little teddy bear.
This is Dexter, my new dog. He's been here for a month now. Hello.
Oh,
So at the moment, he has been entertaining me. I take him
I
for
mean,
about
you
half
can
an hour
keep
walk.
him in the shot if you want. Keep him in the screen if you want. Nobody will mind. So the day has come. The day has arrived. This year, I've made a big, scary, intimidating decision. You can see Mickey over there. He's shaking his head. He's letting some tears out. Me too. My voice is kind of breaking up as I'm saying this because it is the end of an era. I have made a huge decision to leave the company that has shaped me and allowed me to grow and where I've had an amazing time for like 6 years now. And as you can see, I'm representing wearing the Teachify t-shirt because, yeah, after 6 years, I've decided to make the brave and scary decision of going it alone and leaving Teachify and starting my own business. So today we're going to have a chat about Teachify, how it started, what Teachify do, what it's been like with Mickey, the founder of Teachify, over the last 6 years, and what the plan is moving forward, both for Teachify and for English with Lewis. So yeah, it's pretty emotional. And on that note, Mickey, welcome. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you, Louis, even though we speak to each other on a daily basis. But yeah, I'm very good, and it's very sad but also exciting times for you, and I'm very proud of you to take this leap into running your own business, which is, I'm sure you're going to have every success at, because you are an amazing person and an amazing teacher.
You're making me blush, you know?
I know it's an emotional time. Like, I know we've already known now for a few weeks, but like, yeah, it's an emotional time. It's been a long time we've worked together now.
So just to paint the picture for you, a month ago approximately, I broke the news to Mickey and I told him that I was going to be stepping aside from my role at Teachify. However, I'm going to continue collaborating with Teachify for the next couple of months before taking this leap. So we've been in constant kind of back and forth talking about how Teachify is going to move forward and how I'm going to move forward. So we've already kind of assumed the reality, but we still get a bit emotional about it because we've been through a lot, right?
We do. We closed our first or second client together. We've grown together, like side by side. We've grown the business from nothing to what it is today, and there's still room to keep growing, but it'll just be done slightly differently now without your input at the moment. But yeah, it's been very good. I think we should talk about how we actually met, because I have a funny story. Well, funny story. I have a version of the story in my mind. Do you mind if I explain this?
Go ahead. I'm all ears, and I'm sure everybody's eager to hear about it.
I love this story, and I tell this quite a lot when people ask how did the business start, or like, how did you meet Lewis? So I remember I was working in an academy in Seville as an English teacher, and I went to another academy to do a level test because I wanted to do my C2 in Spanish, which, by the way, I didn't do, probably wouldn't be able to pass, but the intention was
You'd
there.
pass it with flying colours, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you for the support. And in doing that level test, the academy owner offered me a position as academy coordinator because I knew her from before. So I left my current position as an English teacher and transitioned to an academy coordinator. Anyway, moving forward a little bit, Lewis was the person who took my position at the first academy, but we'd never met each other. However, I was good friends with the receptionist. Her name was Luth, and she told me that this new teacher, Lewis, was amazing, the best teacher they ever had. And I said, what? Better than me? How can he be better than me? Ego exploded. I was jealous. I was like, who is this Lewis character? Who is he and where is he from? And that was it anyway. So I was a little bit jealous, not going to lie. And we had never even met each other. Fast forward a few months, we were looking for a new teacher, and it's very difficult to find high quality teachers. So I messaged Luth, the receptionist at this academy, and I said, by any chance, does Lewis still work there? But he does. I said, can I have his number? Because I would like to interview him. And that happened. So Lewis came, we met for the first time. I interviewed him at this academy, and Lewis decided to make the transition and come and work for this new academy. So I was loosely managing Lewis because it was quite a free academy. We kind of didn't really have too much. Everybody knew what they was doing, good quality teachers. So we worked together for a year almost, or maybe about a year. And then during that time, I was planning secretly, not telling anybody, about Teachify. And Lewis went to Australia with his partner for a year to travel. But me and Lewis maintained contact during that year. And Lewis had noticed that I had started this company because we had a few followers on Instagram. We were doing some tongue twisters and phrasal verbs and things on there. And when Lewis was finishing his travels, he messaged me and said, "Are you looking for a new teacher?" And I said, "You will be the first teacher to come and work," because in that precise moment, we had grown just enough to be able to get more staff in. So Lewis was the first full-time teacher to come in, not just teacher, but also business partner as well. So we didn't just teach classes, we were both teaching actually at the time, if you remember, teaching, cycling around Sevilla. Lewis was creating content. I was trying to manage new clients coming in. So we multitasked and did every aspect of the business in those early stages. And that's basically how we met and how we started the business.
Now, it's interesting because obviously it started off with my first teaching job full time, which was at this academy where you mentioned Luz. And I remember it was a pretty fun job. It was enjoyable. The rest of the teachers were really friendly. So we had a kind of good thing going outside of the academy where we'd go out for some drinks, and we'd also have some drinks with the students. And I had also heard of you in passing from the odd student being like, "Oh, do you know what happened to Mickey? Is he
The
still
legend, Mickey.
Like, do you know what happened to that best teacher ever?" And I was like, I have no idea who you're talking about, but
You don't care.
he sounds terrible to me. So no, forget about Mickey. Think about me. I'm here now, please. A bit of respect. And then I think when I was finishing my experience at this first academy, I then was like doubting and wondering like, what should I do? Should I continue teaching English or should I pursue a different career? And I remember going back to England in summer, and that was my moment to like reflect. And then I saw a job working at like a summer camp, more or less, for university students. And I was like, oh, this is pretty well paid. And what? You can eat for free with the students at the same time? Win-win. So obviously
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Winner chicken dinner. I was like, this is for me. Free food, of course. Yeah. So I ended up doing that job in La Línea in Cadiz for like 2 or 3 months. And it was towards the end of that experience when we were in touch and we had our first online interview as well. And this was pre-pandemic, of course, but maybe we were ahead of the times and very innovative in having like a Skype meeting. And after that, Mickey offered me the job and we started working together side by side for the first time. It was really fun. We had, again, a good kind of vibe and community thing going on after the classes. So it's quite sociable. And then, I went to Australia. I was working there, traveling. And just as I was on my way back to Europe, I saw that Mickey had created a page on Instagram for Teachify. He had started making these tongue twisters. He'd started recording himself as well.
Oh, the embarrassment. Those videos. Oh, cringe.
Cringy, but fun as well. And I remember seeing that and being like, oh, that looks interesting. I could work with Mickey again. We could make something happen, start something relatively from scratch, because at that point, you mentioned Teachify had been running, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months.
Yeah, I think, I had some help from some part-time teachers, but they weren't really working for the company. It was just kind of extra help. But at that time, I was still teaching the majority of the classes. And it was just at that time when you came in was when my workload was maxed out. I had no more hours in the day to do any more classes, plus everything else I was doing. It was very early days. I would say 6-7 months into the start.
So tell everybody, where did that idea and kind of the energy and motivation come from to set up your own company and start Teachify?
Oh, where do I start with this? Firstly, I don't like not being a manager. I this
You
is
don't
the
like
first.
doing what you're told.
No, I've never been very good like being told what to do. So it kind of made sense that I had some kind of autonomy and business to make my own decisions. Whether that was in the language sector or not, I don't know. But I think this was a natural step for me at some point in my life. But actually, it came from working in this academy, the one that we worked at together, because I used to do all of the English level tests for students. And as you mentioned, like the academy itself was like perfect, like really beautiful inside. The location was in front of the cathedral in Seville, like balconies. The prices were very good. The teachers were very good. Everything was actually very good about that academy. But I noticed that adults in particular didn't really sign up to the courses as much as I thought they would. And obviously doing these level tests, it becomes like doing a survey. So I started asking the question, like, what is it they're not signing up for? And what it boiled down to was that adult learners, professional learners who were working, wanted a specific service where they could have personalized classes, be more flexible with the day and the time of their classes, instead of what was available at the moment was going into a classroom with 10 other students with the objective to pass the Cambridge B1 exam. So the objectives were very different. And the flexibility was very important. So then I was looking around and I couldn't really see anyone who was offering this flexibility, kind of like the Uber or the Globo of language services. So yeah, my initial idea was to create an application. That's where the idea came from. And I spoke to some developers actually after a few beers in one of my favorite bars in Seville called Viriato. If anybody goes there, I love it.
Great place to watch football. If you're ever
Yeah.
in Seville and you want to watch Super Sunday or the Euros or the World Cup, then check out Viriato, right at the
Yeah.
end of Calle Feria.
I'm going to message him actually, see if I can get some free beers next time I go there.
Exactly. If this video does very well, I'll put some kind of like promo code in so we can maybe get some free beers.
Yeah. But I remember going there, meeting this guy who's a developer, like he was very good. He was just like, you said, you're thinking way too ahead. He was like, you need to think of like the 3 simple functions that you need for this business idea to work. And the reality of it was I needed adults to be able to book their class, make payments, and to introduce information of where the teacher needed to go with the day and the time. So obsessive as I am sometimes, I got on YouTube, started watching videos on how to create a website, and I built my first website with those 3 functions. And then bit by bit, we started growing, and the classes were just one-to-one personalized classes, mostly for CEOs of companies. And then as we kind of grew and my workload increased, because I only had half an hour to get from one office to the other in Seville, which is more than enough time, but it can be tight. And when you're doing
Be a
5
little bit
classes,
sweaty at the same time, especially in summer. It can be, woof,
yeah,
don't be grey, basically. That would be my advice to anyone who has to do this, because I only wear black t-shirts nowadays, because if not, my pits, the less you see, the better.
especially in Seville, like in July. So we started off with these classes, creating the content, and then the CEOs of companies wanted us to teach their employees in small groups. So then we had 2 services, one-to-ones and groups at fixed times. Then I think that was right about when you came in, Lewis, when we just kind of started to do groups as well.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of started to build the team up and create more content, more marketing, get more clients in. Started in Seville, obviously. And then we had offices that also wanted classes in Madrid. So we got some teachers in Madrid. And then the pandemic happened. So we transitioned online. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And we've just continued to grow since then.
And we can discuss each kind of step and stage of the journey and the business. But one thing that I used to always tell people when I was doing the interviews, because up until a month ago, I've been doing the interviews for new teachers. And then when I'm introducing Teachify, I'd always kind of start with the Uber idea, or it's like ordering a pizza, but you're ordering an English teacher. Because I remember you told me this was the vision at the beginning. And it was going to be more of kind of a B2C company, where it's business to customer, business to client. But then you realized maybe that wasn't the best business plan. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, I think we wanted to have some kind of stable revenue which came from companies. And because of the importance, especially in Spain, France, and possibly Italy as well, these countries do struggle sometimes with English to do business, which is the international language of business. So there's quite a big market for that service there. So we decided to solely focus on business and B2B. And it just offered us the stability that we needed as a company, especially in the early stages, because we didn't have any funding or investment. So it was all self-funded and kind of growing organically. So we had to be very cautious with the decisions that we made going forward. And obviously make sure we have enough cash flow to pay teachers for the work that they're doing. So yeah, that's why we focused on B2B. I mean, it's quite a good decision. We now do a little bit of B2C, but to be honest, like, as you know, Lewis, it's not really our main focus because we need more stability with income to provide a better service for our students.
So if anyone here watching this is considering setting up their own company or anything like that, would you recommend focusing on B2B rather than B2C?
I think it depends on the business and the model. It has to fit with the model that they have. And for us, it was definitely the case. But yeah, I would also love to, if anybody is starting up a business and wants to talk about it and brainstorm, I would be more than happy to just talk to you about it, because I actually love it. I love people with ideas and what they're doing. So yeah, if anybody is listening and is thinking about starting a business, obviously leave a comment and reach out, and Lewis can give my contact, and we can arrange a meeting one day. Maybe that'd be fun.
No, for sure. It's interesting because now I'm interested in business, and I've been interested in business and business podcasts and stuff like that for quite a long time because of my role at Teachify. I've always kind of been linked to the management and the growth of the company. So I've always been kind of interested in how companies work, how you get new leads, get new clients, how you build up this working relationship with these people as well. And I remember you telling me a few times about how Teachify got its first proper client, its first proper company, not a one-to-one student or anything like that, but the first client. What could you tell us about that? When did it happen? How did it happen and everything?
Yeah, I remember this. I was using a website to look for students, and I kind of found a company that had posted an advert saying that they're looking for a business English teacher to teach the employees of this company. The downside to it is they didn't say what the name of the company was. So I had no idea. So all they had was, I was like, who does this? I was actually angry at the moment, and I was like, this is perfect for me. And but what they did do is they left the street name of the company. So I Googled the street name, and on that street, there were like multiple companies. So I was like, okay, let's ring each of them up and find out which one it is. So I put because I was a one-man band at the time, so I didn't have anyone. So I would put some background music on or sounds from YouTube of like pretending to be in an office with people like typing on a keyboard, and like office noise, like staplers, and just the standard.
Make it look like you were a big deal with, like 20, 30 people in the background. No, you were a one-man band, as you
I was, yeah. I remember I was actually sitting in my living room.
Trades.
I was sitting in my living room, like setting up the speakers so it sounded like, and testing it to see if it sounded like I was in an office. So yeah, I started to ring round, and I finally managed to get through to the company that actually did the ad. And I had a meeting with them, multiple meetings, and yeah, we started teaching them. I managed to close the first deal of Teachify with a company, and yeah, we were with that client for a long time, 6 years, more or less. And unfortunately, we no longer teach them due to them merging with another company, and they've stopped a lot of external investments. But yeah, it was a good client of ours. We've had them for a long time. I was very happy with that as a first one.
It's funny because you keep mentioning you teaching, and it's been so long since you've taught, because Mickey did start out as a teacher at Teachify and other companies, of course. But then, of course, becoming the founder, CEO, and taking on all of these managerial roles, you don't have the time or priority to be able to teach, and it's better to hire full-time teachers or part-time teachers to do this. But as a teacher, what were you like? I don't remember, and people might be curious to know what it would have been like if Mickey had continued teaching.
You're putting me on the spot now, aren't you? You're trying to see if I'm going to slip up. I'm always teaching.
I'm just curious.
I think what I'm good at doing is making complex things sound simple. So I think my students, whenever I used to teach them, would leave the class feeling that they had learned something, whether it was one thing or two things from the whole session, with it 1 hour, an hour and a half, but they would always come out having learned something. And I think I was quite good at reading the room. So I could tell which students to give more attention to, which ones I needed to try and motivate a little bit more. Maybe they're a little bit shy. maybe they're not shy. Maybe they've just had a bad day because they're all adults. Everybody has a bad day. So I think as a teacher, it's also your responsibility to try and detect that from the students. And if you can see somebody's not really in the right mindset, maybe not pushing them too much. And, there's other aspects to teaching that is less, more than just the actual language side of it. But yeah, I think I was a pretty good teacher. I think my feedback was good. I used to have fun with the classes. I wouldn't say my grammar was that good, though.
I can vouch for you being a very, very fun and great teacher. You've just admitted that maybe the grammar wasn't your area of expertise, but who cares about grammar anyway? And you have some interesting grammar tips at the same time. I remember when you used to do these live classes on Instagram with Will during the pandemic and throughout this time, you'd always be teaching certain things. So one of them was the rule for when to use in and on related to public transport.
Oh, hang on, I need to remember it now. I haven't done it. Anyway. So this is a problem for everyone. Is the prepositions in English. Even English people sometimes get this a little bit wrong. So a general rule for prepositions related to transport is if the transport has an aisle, basically the middle section with the seats on the left and the right, the aisle, then you would use the preposition on. So for example, you would say, I am on the bus. You would say, I'm on the train. You would even say, I'm on the aeroplane because it also has an aisle. If it doesn't have an aisle, then you would generally use the preposition in. For example, I am in the car. There's no aisle in a car. It's just 4 seats or 5 seats. You would say, I'm in a helicopter, even though it's flying similar to a plane, but it doesn't have an aisle like a plane does. And then the rest of them, what would it be?
I mean, you've explained it perfectly for me.
Oh, yeah.
Nailed it. He nailed it. Absolutely hit the nail on the head. He smashed it. So if anyone wants to bring Mickey out of retirement to start teaching again, let us know in the comments.
It's worse.
So let's move on from the teaching side of things. And I mentioned the pandemic. You've mentioned the pandemic. I remember the pandemic being a chaotic, scary time for everybody. We were locked down. We actually recorded the first Teachify podcast like the week before. And I remember we did this in a co-working office in Seville. We were speaking about our plans for the year and what we're going to do with the podcast and how we had these big, big dreams. And we didn't realize that there was about to be this crazy disease coming over and making sure that we all stay at home and can't go out and kind of not make the most of a year of our lives. But hey, we didn't know anything back then, and it was a scary time for a small company. So do you remember what was going through your mind when the Spanish government were telling us, like, okay, from now on, the lockdown begins?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not the type of person to panic too much. I'm quite good at staying calm. And it was actually, I don't know if you remember, actually until we made the decision because, we were a small company at the time, and we had multiple teachers and we were dealing with multiple clients, and there was this news that was coming out, and we were kind of waiting to see what all of our clients did. And every single client had a different perspective on what the situation was, what they're going to do. So we were just kind of waiting patiently to see what everybody was doing before making a final decision. And obviously that decision was taken out of our hands, but we were already prepared. We were quite quick to transition into online classes. We're very fortunate as well to have companies and clients who saw the value in the training, whether it was in person or online, even though this did take a few months for some clients to realize actually the benefits of online teaching. The difference between online teaching and presential teaching is not actually that different. Mm-hmm. If anything, there are some more skills that can be learned online because they can actually be quite quicker, quite dynamic. You've got the use of the chatbot, you've got other features you can use. If anything, it's arguably maybe better online. It could be. I think it'd be nice to have more social gatherings though, like in-person gatherings, but not so much language focused, just speaking focused, like, having a few beers and stuff. That would be quite nice, but also very difficult to do logistically now because we have teachers all over Spain, and clients all over Spain and France as well. So it's a bit challenging, but yeah, that situation was tricky, but I thought we managed it really well, to be honest with you. I think we actually, as a team, we did really well in that situation.
we weathered the storm, you could say. To weather the storm is kind of to manage a situation that's a little bit turbulent, really. So yeah, we weathered the storm, and it opened up so many possibilities for us, because before then we were in Seville, and we had just like one client in Madrid. And I remember we had literally just hired Will, who is the COO, the Chief Operating Officer of Teachify. And he literally just started working for Teachify, and then, pandemic.
Yeah. It was funny because we actually got 2 new teachers the week before the pandemic. I remember I went to Madrid to see Will and to start one of the courses for another client in Madrid. And I remember we were on the underground, preposition on, underground is like
an aisle.
Got an aisle. And I remember we were there like holding on to the thing. We were talking, and we was like, "Oh, this thingy," and I was like, "Nah, it'll be okay. Nah, don't worry about it." Like, and everything was normal at that moment. And literally, it was like 2 days later. It went all a bit crazy, and it was maybe we should have listened a bit more to the news.
Great. But with this, would you say that this was a decisive moment for Teachify, and that in fact it was a bit of a blessing in disguise in many ways?
I don't know. I feel it was good for the company in that moment to grow. I feel like what it did though was take away what was one of our unique selling points, which is the on-demand classes in person. So we no longer had such a unique selling point, because there are lots of mega platforms around that offer classes any day, anytime, 24 hours, So we're now competing. We're in a different market, competing with different competitors. So I don't know if it was good or not. I feel like obviously it's nice that we grew and we've learned a lot along the way. Would I have preferred for us to continue growing as we were when we were still doing presential classes? Possibly. I think the company would be in a very different position if that were the case now. But also, you need to factor in the lifestyle changes that we've all lived, which have personally been much better. So now I'm thinking, would I take my lifestyle over the potential of the business staying on site, and where it would potentially be, 4 years later? I think I would take this lifestyle now. But I think I think I preferred the business as it was before than it is now.
Okay, interesting. I don't think we've ever really gotten into this in any real detail. So it's interesting.
No, I think
these insights.
Yeah, because we had to kind of pivot, we had to change ideas. Like the vision of like the Uber, like of language teachers, is no longer really necessary. So then we're just teaching online. So then, and we're competing with big competitors. So we have to rely a lot now on, good clients, high satisfaction, progression of students, like tangible results, but also like a great team of teachers. We need high quality teachers, which is one of our strengths for sure when it comes to comparing us to other online learning platforms, where they seem to have lots of teachers from all around the world, not necessarily actual teachers with teaching experience. They're more just like native speakers, but can kind of hold a conversation, which is also good. Depends on what your objectives are as a learner. But we have some quite clear objectives with our clients, and our HR demand that they have progressions and results and how we're learning. So yeah, it's different. It's a different market we're in. But yeah, I think it's an interesting question.
No.
What about you?
What about me?
Yeah, would you have preferred to stay cycling around Seville?
No. I mean, it's weird to think of it nowadays, because like the world has changed so much in the last 5 years. And when the pandemic happened, I don't know about you, but I had never taught any like online classes before. I had a couple of like Portuguese classes, but it was just like a conversation exchange on Skype, and there was no real teaching there. And I didn't actually mind moving around Seville and cycling and going from one office to another. But sometimes it could be a little bit stressful if you had someone booking a class on one side of the city, and then you had to go to the other side of a city in 30 minutes. You always had enough time, but sometimes if you were finishing a class a couple of minutes late, and then there was a little bit of traffic and you had to stop at the traffic lights, you'd be like looking at your watch and be like,
traffic lights. Nobody tells me what to do, Lewis. Not even a traffic light.
Just keep going, full steam ahead. But I don't know. It was fun, and maybe there were aspects of it that were more rewarding, like teaching in person, because you can build up more of a connection with the students. So then it was interesting that when you were teaching students who you already knew in person for the online classes, it was better because you already knew them really, really well compared to teaching people that you've never met in person and you never know how tall they are or what they're like or anything like this. But I'd say it was maybe more rewarding at times, being in person. And we'd also get to have like a nice coffee with the rest of the teachers. So we'd have a bit of downtime that we'd spend together. And then as soon as it went online, there was no longer a break between the classes, or at least all of the classes, which was much more productive. And you could maybe start later and finish earlier, teaching the same number of classes, which was a positive. But you didn't have as much connection with other teachers or other students. So yeah.
I feel like this was a thing as well, wasn't it? It's like, because the classes were then back to back because there was no travel time. So then we had to think very differently about the business model, because we're like, well, hang on, teachers can't work 8 hours back to back. It's impossible. Right? So then we have to think about, okay, breaks and things and times and stuff. But yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? I think when we did go online, we did really well. I think because I don't know if you remember, we started doing those master classes as well for new clients. And we would have like 30, 40 people in a class. We'd have multiple teachers in breakout rooms. So we were also learning how to use these tools. But the feedback we got was amazing. Like I think we did really well with those. And yeah, it was good. It was good. Yeah, no. Different times now, isn't it?
Mixed feelings about it. Obviously, times change, things happen, and now it's been 5 years since the first wave of the pandemic happened, and things have changed for us personally, the rest of the world, but for Teachify. So tell us about Teachify nowadays. What is kind of the current structure and the vision moving forward also?
Yeah, so at the moment, we still have the same services that we had when we were teaching presential. So we have individual classes and group classes. Group classes are fixed, B2B with corporate clients. And we also manage government funding in both Spain and France because we have 2 offices. And we recently launched an application with AI, which is a B2C and B2B at the moment. And this is a fantastic step for us because we never actually had an app, and the company was always called Teachify app. With the idea of getting an app, we finally got an app, which is something Lewis always used to say, when are we actually going to get an app? Well, now we have an app. And so far, the results have been really good with the app. It's really good. I think the student usage time has really increased their level of English. I think we did a pilot with a client last year, just before the end of the year. And the average of a couple of the students was like 3 hours extra per week studying English. They would have their English classes plus 3 hours extra. They'd be using the app. And this is like partly a bit of the philosophy of Teachify, Lewis, which you also helped develop, was, to try and find ways to incorporate English in your day to day. So you don't have to stop or make specific plans to have to learn the language. Obviously have your classes, but listening to the Lewis's podcast, following the Instagram pages, learning tips and tricks. If you have access to an app, is to go on 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here. But you add all of that up on a weekly basis, there's actually quite a few hours of language learning, and you don't even really have to change too much. So the app has given us that option. And the idea is to keep pushing the app, improving. We've actually got some new content which is launched today on the app. So there's workshops on grammar, phrasal verbs, and idioms as well, which is quite nice. And the idea is to keep pushing with the app, get more content, personalize it more, and focus a little bit more on AI and see where we can go with this in terms of virtual teachers, maybe as a bit of a test. Yeah.
Interesting. So with virtual teachers, is there anything that you think might happen in the near future in regards to having a team of virtual teachers for Teachify?
Yeah, I think it can. I think it's definitely going to get to that point. I think the virtual teachers in AI and avatars, let's say, they're going to be so well developed that you would quite happily, I think students paying a lower cost would quite happily sit down and have a class with an AI virtual avatar style teacher. And companies would also like that because it means that their investment in the training will be lower. The results will be maybe not exactly the same. I think it's all about the user getting their head around the idea that this is not a real person, which I don't think we're there yet. That will be a learning curve for users. And then we will still have English classes with real teachers, but this will become hopefully maybe a little bit more of a premium service. Everyone can have one of this base service with AI and AI teachers. And if they want something very specific, very tailored and very personal, then we can also do that with real teachers. That would be a nice line or a nice vision to head towards, I think.
And you mentioned that people maybe aren't fully prepared for this yet. Why do you think there is this pushback against AI in many ways? Because right now AI is all over the news. Just over the last week, there's been this kind of AI war between the US and China with DeepSeek and OpenAI and all of these other models. Like, what is it about people that you think that maybe we're not fully ready to adopt everything AI?
I think it's like anything, though. There's always a transition, like every 100 years or 50 years or something. There's always something new that happens. And I think, there's two types of people in the world. There's people that embrace the change and adapt and learn and upskill, let's say. And then they maybe they transition even their careers, their professions, countries, like because of this new change. And there are people that don't and are very reluctant to take on board this new technology. And unfortunately, they get kind of left behind a little bit. And I think it limits their options going forward in terms of work. I think that's always been the case. So I think that's why people feel a bit scared of AI, because they feel like it's going to take their positions, which in most cases it probably will at some point. But that doesn't mean that now you can't start planning. Okay, well, if it's going to take these positions, where can I transition? Where can I go to? Which is going to be quite a safe job and upskill. So I think it depends if people are lazy as well. Like some people are lazy and they're like, I don't really care. Like I'll just see what happens. And they might be a bit risky to do that.
It's interesting because if you follow lots of people on LinkedIn, then you get the impression that everybody in the world absolutely loves AI. Then if you go on other social media platforms, it's like, what is AI? What's going on? So it's interesting comparing these contrasts.
But we've used it now for quite a while, Lewis, like at Teachify, like we started, not the app, but like, in terms of content, in terms of ideas, like even drafting emails or drafting proposals, like, it's made our work a lot more efficient. Is it perfect? No. Like, will it be perfect? Probably, yeah. Like, but like, it's just a matter of time and also costs as well. Like at the moment, like it's very, very good. It's probably good enough now, but it's too expensive for us to use as a virtual teacher. But, in a year or two, maybe those costs will come down and then we can look into it. So I think you have to be present with it and you have to be in the know, but you don't also have to just adopt and change everything to AI. You need to have a balance, I think.
Exactly. It has to be just right. Now, let's move on slightly from this and let's focus on a few things that are slightly more personal. Don't worry, I'm not going to put you on the spot with anything. But one thing that I'm curious about is your routine. What is your normal day-to-day like? How do you go about balancing your private life whilst also running Teachify?
Yeah, this has been interesting. This has been quite a challenge, actually, at the start when everything changed. Because we were going through that phase of going from on-site classes to virtual classes. And then I used to have regular meetings with clients. I never knew, do we have the meetings? Do we not have the meetings anymore? Is it always online? Are they going to want to have meetings in person again? And over time, I realized, okay, nobody wants to have meetings in person anymore. They just want to have it online. So I was like, perfect. So then I made the most of kind of traveling and working. So my routine, I'm very strict with myself just because I like feeling productive. If I don't feel productive, it makes me feel a bit depressed and down and lazy. And I don't like that. I like feeling productive. So it doesn't matter where I were in the world, whether it's in Spain, in France, in Portugal, or wherever it is, I would always wake up early. I would always go to the gym. I kind of play around with diets, with intermittent fasting, not eating late. I like to try these things out. But right now, Lewis, I'm going to tell you what my day starts like. Let me start from today.
Tell me and show me if you want to,
I will show you. So I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do when I wake up is I go to the kitchen, I have a glass of water, I put on my jacket, put my headphones on, and then I get this out of the bedroom.
I can't believe we've got
oh my God, look at it.
What? It's like a little teddy bear.
This is Dexter, my new dog. He's been here for a month now. Hello.
Aww.
So at the moment, he has been entertaining me. I take him
I
for
mean,
about
you
half
can
an hour
keep
walk.
him in the shot if you want. Keep him in the screen if you want. Nobody will mind.
Oh, he probably like, if you want to jump around, he's getting a bit
It's all right. Don't
anxious.
worry about
Yeah, so I go for a walk with him, so he can do his business,
it.
needs and all that. And yeah, it's really nice. Like I like the walk because I live near the coast, so I like to see the sunrise in the mornings, which comes over the sea because I am on the east side, which is beautiful. Yeah, then I come back, feed the dog, make myself a coffee, have a shower, open my laptop, and I start work. So it's usually about 8, 8:30. Um, and then I'll work as much as I need to, depending on my daily tasks. I'm a task setter. I think it's amazing if you don't set tasks and do to-do lists. So I just work my way through all of my to-do lists, which I usually schedule, the week before. But I don't see the week as 5 days working, 2 days weekend. I see it as 7 days. So I often work at the weekends. And if I get more work done during the week, then I will take maybe I have to work over the weekend, maybe on a Tuesday or a Wednesday during the week. I'll be like, okay, I'm going to take that afternoon. I don't even want to work because I worked at the weekend. So I manage my time quite freely. And obviously there's moments throughout the year which are very busy. So January, that's not really possible in January, or at least till the end of January. And at the end and start of every quarter. Those are the busy periods. So then during the week, so there's a busy periods, and then the rest of the time is more kind of ideas and focused and marketing and client relationships. That's where I focus on. But there are times where that has to be kind of left a little bit on the side while I'm doing other bits and bobs. Yeah. That's today. And I
It
might finish work and also, try and get the gym in. And I might finish work. It depends on the day. It could be 3, it could be 5, it could be 8 at night. Like it really just depends. Like there is no time limit, and I just need to get the work done. That's it. Which is quite nice. I like that.
I think this is what happens if you are your own boss at the end of the day. If you are self-employed or you're a freelancer, then you might be busy at 5 o'clock in the morning doing some work. You might be
Right.
busy at the weekend on Sunday evening doing some work. And if you enjoy what you're doing, then it doesn't really feel like work that much. But if it's, I don't know, an office job where you're doing something you're not passionate about, then that's when it gets really tiring and draining when you have to do work and you don't even consider doing work at the weekend because your weekend is sacred. Once you are working with your own projects, then it's like it's a hobby. It's just part of your life and you get a kick out of doing it.
Yeah, but I think also when you're working for someone else, it's difficult, isn't it? Because it's like it's not your idea. Like you do have an input, and you're helping the company grow and or sustain itself. And and you should always do a good job, whatever it is that you're doing. But when you're working for your own, it's a bit different because literally the more work you put in, the more you get out. Like, and you directly see it. So that's quite motivating to see. Um, yeah, I mean, your schedule's going to be very different now, Lewis. That's what I mean. I also like with clients and meetings, they have booking links these days, which is amazing. Like they can only book in, so that is true. Like every day I have like a window, which I'm 100% always connected. And that is because clients can book in that window. But any time before that or after that, that's my free time to kind of manage my workload. But there is a section in the day, which is like non-negotiable connection time, let's say.
Connection time with Dexter.
I know, honestly.
But it's interesting. I mean, with my schedule at the moment for the next couple of months, I'll still be doing my morning work for Teachify, teaching some of my classes. And they're great students, so I'm more than happy to do it. And I've always enjoyed teaching all the time with all of the students I
You've
get.
always liked teaching, haven't you? Like, but I feel like that's definitely one of your strengths. Has always been teaching. I think in the 6 years that you've been working for Teachify, like you've never once had any negative feedback, like ever. Like it's always been positive, like which is very unusual for a 6 year stint. That is definitely your strength, is the teaching, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I always use this phrasal verb that we've used many, many times, and it's usually used for electronics when you like press start, but I use it for like becoming an actor and turning it on. So I'm a very different person when I'm not teaching to who I am when I am teaching. And in particular with group classes, I, again, get a kick out of it. So I enjoy teaching in particular when you see these group dynamics. And then I become a different person with my hands out, my voice changes. I'll be cracking some jokes at the same time whilst writing in the chat. So yeah, I'm going to be continuing doing that for Teachify over the next couple of months, whilst also teaching my group classes in the evenings. If anyone would like to sign up, then let me know. And I'm going to have to basically manage my time to be able to do different things, more content creation, admin, a little bit of everything, trying to find new clients as well. So my life's going to be changing. So it's exciting, but it's also a little bit daunting in many ways.
Yeah, I think you'll be fine, Lewis. You've done so well over the last few years, like in your social media presence, and your work ethic has always been good. Like it's just a question of hard work. Like that's the beauty of it, is the more work you put in, the more you get out of it. Like and just going back, touching what you said about teaching, that is one thing I do miss. If I had to describe my current job, like my roles and responsibilities now to when I was just a teacher, what I missed was the seeing students progress. Because the job satisfaction is very high when you're a teacher. If you're a good teacher and you're a motivated teacher and you actually care about your students, the job satisfaction is very high, because you can see class by class students progressing, and that makes you feel good because you know you've done that. Whereas my responsibility now, I don't get to see that side of it so much. Mine's just the boring stuff now.
The data.
It's just but yeah, that is a nice thing about being a language teacher, I guess, is the job satisfaction is very high.
And let's just finish with languages, because usually when I'm having these conversations, I'm asking people about how they learn a language, or if they're bilingual, and what language learning tips they have. Mickey, or Mikael, you have a Spanish dad and an English mum. So what was it like for you growing up in this environment, and when did you actually start properly getting good at Spanish?
Yeah, this is a tough one, actually. Like so I was actually born in Spain, as you know. Like Lewis has also met my family, but I grew up in England.
What?
I was actually grew up. So I was born in Spain, but I actually grew up in England, and we always spoke English at home because my mum never spoke Spanish. My brother and sister, my school was in English. But every year for 6 weeks, I would come to Spain and spend 6 weeks with my Spanish grandparents, where I had to speak in Spanish. So it wasn't very good, but that 6 weeks exposure as a child really helped. And also my dad did have the television on in Spanish, so all the football was always in Spanish, cartoons and stuff. So even though I wasn't practicing it on a daily basis, I was always listening to it. So that is a must for sure. Like you need to be immersing yourself in listening to podcasts or cartoons. If you've got children and you want them to learn English, for example, or even another language, definitely put the cartoons on in that language you want them to learn. And yeah, I kind of grew up and I had a very basic level of Spanish. It was okay, like I could get by, but I always felt like it was a bit of a missed opportunity not having learned it perfectly, being half Spanish and half English. So I decided to come to Spain, and I decided to chuck myself into a Spanish environment, which was in Cadiz, working in a bar with only Spanish people. And that is where I really learned. And it was very difficult at first. Like I remember coming home after a day's work and just kind of lying in bed and thinking about all of the conversations that I'd had, all of the mistakes that I made. And I'm like, why did I say that? I know that's not right. This is the correct structure or the form. So yeah, you have to go through a phase where you probably don't sleep that much. You're annoyed at yourself, like disappointed with yourself. But once you push through that, then you start to enjoy it a little bit more, and then you kind of exponentially improve. So yeah, languages are difficult. What was the original question? I feel like I've...
it's all right. Sometimes I'm asking these questions, or when I'm answering these questions, you kind of lose the plot, you lose track of what you're saying, but you were answering perfect. And it was about your upbringing, being bilingual and having a Spanish dad and English mom. And you kind of made the decision to become a proper language learner, let's say when you were an adult and when you moved to Cadiz and then later Seville. And then now, of course, as you mentioned earlier, you have a C3 level of Spanish.
I'm C4, mate. I am the bomb.
I mean, usually you and Will, I mentioned him, you'll be kind of not arguing, but having a friendly little debate about each other's Spanish. So maybe you could do some kind of challenge on Instagram or something and see who speaks
challenge there. There's no challenge there anymore, Lewis. I'm far superior than Will.
It's no competition. And on that note, guys watching this, if you've seen Will on Instagram before and you'd like me to interview him as well, then let me know. And
that would be a funny interview. I think you should try and get that done.
I will be. If people say they want it, we'll do it. So
We'll
let
let
me
the
know in the
people
comments.
decide.
Let the people decide. But oh, look how cute he is.
I know. Let me move it down a little bit. There we go.
It's genuinely like a little teddy bear.
It's the cutest dog ever. Honestly, I'm convinced that I've never seen such a beautiful dog. Look at his face. It's crazy.
He's like looking directly at us as well. Oh, so cute. But anyway, I think on that note, we can call it a day for today's interesting, very personal interview, all about myself and Mickey's relationship, about Teachify, how it's changed from the moment it was set up until today. So yeah, I'll leave a link to the Teachify website in case anybody is curious and they'd like to check out the classes for business English, in company, the AI app, and all of this stuff.
Or even if you just want to see Dexter, just let me know. Like,
I want to see Dexter. I'm sure if you set up like an account for him, he will go viral. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I could do. I should set up a dog Instagram page.
This is it. This is it.
I can't bring myself to do that.
I can see you're tempted. You might actually do it. But no, thank you, Mickey. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Lewis.
My pleasure. So yeah, thank you everybody, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye.